She won't say this out loud, but most men are disqualified long before they ever touch her. Not because they're unattractive, not because they lack effort, but because they're satisfying the wrong version of her. You give her stability. You give her loyalty. You build something safe, predictable, respectable. And yet when it matters most, something in her switches off. Have you ever looked into her eyes in an intimate moment and felt like she drifted somewhere else? That subtle distance, that quiet disconnect. She's there, but she's not with you. Here's the part no one tells you. You're not failing as a man. You're just feeding the part of her that feels secure while starving the part that feels alive. And that part, it doesn't respond to logic, comfort, or consistency. It responds to something far more primitive. There are 7 non-negotiable needs wired deep into a woman's emotional and erotic psychology. These aren't preferences, they're triggers. Ignore them, and you slowly become invisible. Understand them, and you become unforgettable. So here's the real question. Can you satisfy even one? Because most men go their entire lives without ever activating a single one. Today, that changes. Need number 1 is controlled threat. Let me break something that most men build their entire identity around, and it quietly destroys their attraction. The idea that women want a nice man. They'll say it. Society will repeat it. Movies will reward it. But biologically, it's a lie. Psychologically, it's self-sabotage. You've seen this play out in real life, whether you admit it or not. The guy who does everything right still gets ignored. The guy who plays by the rules still gets replaced. And the one who doesn't, the one who's harder to read, harder to control, he lingers in her mind. Why? Because safety, real, predictable, controlled safety, doesn't ignite desire. It shuts it down. If you've ever read Come As You Are, there's this concept of the accelerator and the brake in female arousal. Most men live on the brake and then wonder why nothing moves. They think more comfort will fix it, more reassurance, more availability. But what if I told you? That's exactly what's killing it. The first need isn't safety, it's controlled threat. Let me make this real for you. Imagine 2 environments, a swimming pool and the ocean. The pool is clean, predictable, safe. You know exactly how deep it is. You know exactly what to expect. Now the ocean doesn't care about you. It's vast, unpredictable. It can pull you under if you misread it. Which one commands respect? Which one creates tension? Which one do you feel in your chest before you even step in? That's the difference. A woman doesn't emotionally respond to the man she can fully predict. She responds to the man who could be dangerous, but chooses control. And here's where most men get it wrong. They hear this and they swing to the other extreme. They become aggressive, reactive, unstable. That's not power. That's lack of control. Abuse is not dominance. It's weakness without discipline. Controlled threat is different. It's the presence of something dangerous that's fully restrained. It's knowing you could walk away and being completely fine with it. It's holding eye contact just a second too long without flinching. It's saying no without explaining yourself and not feeling the need to soften it. It's when she tests you, and she will, and you don't react emotionally. You don't defend, you don't chase, you don't crumble, because you're not trying to prove anything. You're solid, and here's the uncomfortable truth most men avoid. If her mood can shake you, you're not grounded. If her silence makes you anxious, you're not in control. If her approval defines you, you've already lost leverage. You cannot build desire from that position because she doesn't feel you as something stable. She feels you as something negotiable, and nothing kills attraction faster than that. You don't need to become dangerous. You need to be capable and choose restraint. You become the man who can handle chaos without becoming it. That's what creates tension. That's what creates respect. That's what creates desire. Need number 2 is psychological penetration. This is where almost every man exposes how shallow his understanding really is. Because most men are obsessed with the physical, performance, technique, duration. That's surface-level thinking. That's amateur territory. The real game, it happens in her mind. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been with a woman and felt like you're only interacting with a version of her? Polite, filtered, controlled, like there's something deeper, but you can't quite reach it. That's because you're talking to her mask. And most men never go beyond that. They ask safe questions. How was your day? What are you up to? They compliment what's obvious. They stay in the comfortable layer, but attraction doesn't live there. There's a split inside her. One side is the structured version, the one that functions in society, the responsible one, the composed one. And then there's the other side, the one she doesn't show openly, the impulsive one, the emotional one, the one that feels things she won't say out loud. That's the side that drives desire. And if you never reach it, she'll never fully respond to you. She'll engage, but she won't open. And there's a difference. Let me give you a real scenario. She starts acting cold, distant, slightly difficult. The average man reacts immediately. Why are you acting like this? You're being unreasonable. He argues with what he sees. But what he sees is the defense. The man who understands this ignores the surface. He reads between the lines. He slows down, looks at her and says something that cuts through everything. You're not upset. You're pulling back because you feel overlooked. Now suddenly, she pauses. Because you didn't react to her behavior. You saw through it. That moment, that's exposure. And exposure creates tension. It creates that feeling of being seen without asking to be seen. That's rare. That's addictive. There's a concept called cold reading. Most people use it to manipulate, but in this context, it becomes something else. It becomes precision. When you can articulate what she feels before she says it, you're not angry, you're bored. You don't need space, you need certainty. You bypass her defenses, you speak directly to the part she hides, and that does something to her, because now she feels understood on a level she can't fake. And here's the part most men aren't ready to hear. That level of psychological exposure creates vulnerability, and vulnerability is what opens the door to real intimacy. If you can't reach her mind, you'll never truly reach her. She might stay, she might engage, but she won't surrender to the experience, she'll just participate. And deep down you'll feel it, that subtle distance, that missing depth, that sense that something real never fully clicked. Most men ignore that feeling. The few who understand it, they never go back to surface level again. Need number 3 is volitional resistance. This is where most men quietly erase themselves and don't even realize it, because you've been trained, conditioned to believe that loving a woman means agreeing with her, keeping the peace, avoiding friction, saying yes, even when something in you says no. Sounds noble, right? It's not. It's the fastest way to become invisible. Let me ask you something and be honest with yourself. How many times have you held back your real opinion just to avoid tension? How many times have you laughed at something you didn't find funny, agreed to plans you didn't want, tolerated behavior you knew crossed a line? You didn't do it because you're weak. You did it because you didn't want to lose her. And that is exactly why you lose her. Because the moment your approval of her becomes more important than your respect for yourself, you stop being a man she can feel. You become adaptable. And there is nothing less desirable than a man who bends on command. There's a concept most men never truly understand. Differentiation. It means you remain you, even when she pushes, even when she disagrees, even when it would be easier to fold. Because attraction doesn't come from harmony, it comes from tension. Think about it. You don't crave what mirrors you. You crave what challenges you, what resists you, what forces you to lean in. There's a reason certain men leave a mark and others get forgotten. Let me give you a simple, real scenario. You're on a date. She says something you don't agree with. Nothing major, but enough. Most men, they smile, nodding. Yeah, I see your point. The conversation stays smooth, safe, dead. Now the man she remembers, he pauses, looks at her, slight smile. I don't agree with that. No hostility. No need to convince her. Just grounded disagreement. And suddenly there's tension. Now she's paying attention, because for the first time, she can feel where she ends and where you begin. And that boundary, that's where attraction lives. Let's go deeper. There will be moments guaranteed where she tests you. Not consciously, not logically, emotionally. She'll push, withdraw, challenge your frame. And in that moment, she's not looking for compliance. She's looking for structure. If she raises her voice and you shrink, you fail. If she pulls away and you chase, you fail. If she disrespects your time and you tolerate it, you fail. Not because she's cruel, but because you showed her there's no edge to you, no line she can feel. And if she can't feel your edge, she can't feel your presence. Here's the brutal truth. She doesn't want a tyrant, but she absolutely cannot respect a man she can override. There's an art to this. It's not about arguing. It's not about being difficult. It's about having a code and not negotiating it for validation. If she tries to reshape you, your habits, your style, your priorities, you don't explain, you don't justify, you just don't move. Calm, certain, unavailable to pressure. That friction, that subtle resistance, that's what creates heat. And without heat, everything turns into comfort, and comfort turns into boredom, and boredom turns into replacement. Need number 4 is erotic focus. And this is where things get uncomfortable for most men. Because everything you've been taught says, respect her, don't objectify, be polite. And in the daylight, yes. In the real world, yes. But attraction doesn't live in daylight rules. It lives in the shadows, where people stop performing and start feeling. Let's strip this down. A woman spends her entire life being evaluated. Her behavior, her tone, her decisions, her image. She's constantly on, constantly managing how she's perceived. But deep down, there's a part of her that wants to drop all of that. No performance, no responsibility, just feel. And most men never give her that, because they're too careful, too filtered, too afraid of crossing a line. So they stay in this neutral, polite energy and wonder why nothing ever escalates. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been with a woman and felt that moment where the conversation fades and there's this silence, and instead of stepping into it, you talk your way out of it? You crack a joke, change the subject, break the tension. That was the moment, and you killed it because you couldn't sit in that raw, unspoken energy. You couldn't hold the gaze. You couldn't let her feel that you wanted her without softening it. There's a shift that happens when a man stops observing and starts desiring. And it's not what you say, it's what she feels from you. It's when your attention locks in and doesn't break. When you look at her, not analyzing, not evaluating, but wanting. No apology, no hesitation. And here's the part most men won't admit. They're afraid of their own desire, afraid it will be too much, too intense, too forward, so they dilute it. They turn it into politeness, and in doing that, they make her feel nothing. Because desire needs to be felt, not explained, not negotiated, felt. There's a story about powerful men who led armies, built empires. When they desired a woman, they didn't intellectualize it. They didn't hide it behind clever conversation. They made it clear through presence alone. And that clarity, it removes pressure from her, because now she doesn't have to guess. She doesn't have to lead. She doesn't have to perform. She can just respond. That's what most men don't understand. When you hesitate, she has to take control of the interaction. When you're unclear, she has to fill the gap. And the moment she feels like the one leading, the polarity collapses. the tension disappears. So this isn't about being aggressive. It's about being undeniable. It's in the way you pause mid-sentence, because your attention shifts to her. It's in the silence you hold, instead of rushing to fill it. It's in the certainty behind your actions, instead of asking for permission with your energy. If you're too polite, she feels unseen. If you're too careful, she feels nothing. And nothing is the real rejection. Most men think attraction is about saying the right thing. It's not. It's about becoming the man who doesn't need to ask, because everything in him already communicates intent. And when that clicks, she doesn't just hear you, she feels you. Need number 5 is emotional containment. This is where most men think they're doing everything right and still lose her. Because you've been taught that when a woman opens up, you fix it. She complains about her boss, you give her a strategy. She talks about stress, you offer solutions. She feels overwhelmed. You try to organize her life, and on paper, that sounds like leadership. In reality, you're failing the test, because she didn't bring you a problem. She brought you pressure. And what she's really asking without saying it, can you handle this without becoming it? Let me make this uncomfortable for you. Have you ever been around a woman when she's emotional and felt your own state start to shift? Your chest tightens, your tone changes. You start choosing your words carefully, trying not to make it worse. You're no longer grounded. You're reacting, and the moment you react, she feels it. She might not say it, but something in her registers. He can't hold me. So now she has to hold herself, and the attraction drops. Not because she wants a robot, but because she needs a container. Think about a moment you've probably seen before. A child losing control, crying, screaming, overwhelmed. If the parent reacts emotionally, raises their voice, matches the chaos, everything escalates. But when the parent stays calm, grounded, almost still, the child settles, not because the problem disappeared, but because the environment became stable. Now listen carefully. She's not a child, but the emotional mechanism, it's primal. When she's spiraling, she's not testing your intelligence, she's testing your nervous system. If her chaos infects you, there's no anchor. There's just two people drowning. But if she can pour everything into you, frustration, anxiety, overthinking, and you stay the same, steady, slow, unmoved, something shifts. She starts to regulate through you. Your presence becomes relief. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because now she doesn't just like being around you, she needs it. Not consciously, but chemically. You become associated with calm, with silence, with safety. That actually feels grounding, not boring. So how do you do it? You don't match her energy. You lower yours. When she speeds up, you slow down. When she raises her voice, you soften yours. When she spirals, you reduce words, less talking, more presence, less explaining, more certainty. You don't absorb her chaos by reacting to it, you absorb it by not moving. You become the wall she can lean on without it collapsing. And most men can't do this because they're still trying to be liked instead of being solid. Need number 6 is contextual isolation. This is the one almost no one talks about. And it's why so many men think, I did everything right, and it still didn't happen. You had the tension, you had the moment, you said the right things, and yet nothing. Because you were trying to light a fire in the middle of a storm. Here's the truth. Most men don't understand. Your desire might be instant. Hers isn't. You can switch on. Just like that. She can't. She's not a switch. She's a system. And if the environment is wrong, the system doesn't activate. You've seen this happen. You're with her, but her attention is split. Phone lighting up. Background noise. Something unfinished in her mind. And you try to push forward anyway. You escalate. You flirt. You try to create momentum. But she's not there, and you feel it. That subtle resistance. That lack of presence. It's not rejection. it's context failure. Let me give you a real scenario. You're at home, TV is on, she's scrolling, there's dishes in the sink, she mentions something about work tomorrow, and you try to create a moment there. You've already lost, because her mind is still in 10 different places, and desire cannot exist in fragmentation. It needs focus, isolation, a break from the world she's constantly managing. This is where you stop being just a man and become the architect. You don't ask, "What do you want to do?" That question sounds harmless, but what it really does is give her responsibility. It forces her to think. And the moment she starts thinking, she leaves her body. Now she's in decision mode, planning mode, control mode, and attraction dies there. Instead, you decide, not aggressively, not arrogantly, but clearly, be ready at 7. That's it. No debate, no over-explaining. Now she doesn't have to think. She just follows. And that shift from thinking to feeling, that's everything. You create an environment where the outside world stops existing. Your phone isn't just silent, it's irrelevant. Your attention isn't divided, it's locked in. You handle the logistics, the timing, the direction, the movement. So she doesn't have to. Because the moment she has to remind you of something, did you lock the door? Did you book it? What's the plan? She's back in control, and the polarity collapses. You cannot create desire while she's managing reality. So your role is simple. You remove reality. You create a perimeter. A space where nothing else gets in. No stress, no decisions, no responsibility. And inside that space, she can finally drop out of her head, into her body, into the moment. That's when everything changes. Because now, she's not analyzing, she's feeling. And when a woman is fully in her body, you're no longer trying to convince her. You're no longer trying to escalate. She's already there. You're not just the man she's with. You're the one who took her out of the world and into something else. And once she feels that, she doesn't forget it. Need number 7 is shadow witnessing. This is the level most men never reach. Not because it's complicated, but because it requires something most men don't have. The capacity to face what's uncomfortable without flinching. This is the basement. The part of her she doesn't show her friends, doesn't show her family, doesn't even fully admit to herself. And if you're honest, you've never really gone there with a woman, because it's easier to stay on the surface. Light conversations, predictable emotions, safe versions of her. But that's not where the bond is built. That's where it dies. Every woman you've ever met is carrying something. Not just insecurities, not just past experiences. I'm talking about the parts she's ashamed of, the thoughts she filters out before speaking, the impulses she judges herself for having, the contradictions she hides behind a polished image. She's been trained her entire life to be acceptable, to be good, to be controlled. And everything that doesn't fit that image gets pushed into the dark. Now here's where it gets real. She doesn't just hide that part from the world, she hides it from you until she tests something, a comment, a reaction, a subtle reveal. And in that moment, she's watching you closely, not for what you say, for how you respond. Let me give you a scenario. She says something slightly off, a little darker than usual. Maybe a fantasy, maybe a thought, maybe just a glimpse of insecurity that isn't pretty. Most men freeze there. They laugh it off. They redirect. Or worse, they judge. Don't say that. That's weird. Why would you think that? And just like that, she shuts the door, because you confirmed her biggest fear. If he sees all of me, he'll pull away. So from that point on, you don't get her. You get the edited version, the safe version, the controlled version, and you wonder why it always feels like something is missing. Now, the man who understands this does the opposite. He doesn't react. He leans in. Not dramatically, not performatively, quietly, calmly, almost curious. Go on, that's it. No judgment, no discomfort, No need to fix it, just presence. And in that moment, something shifts. Because for the first time, she feels seen without being rejected. And that's rare. Most people in her life only accept the parts of her that are easy. But you're looking directly at the parts she hides, and you're not moving. That creates something deeper than attraction. It creates trust at a level most men never experience. There's a reason confession has always existed. People don't confess because they have to. They confess because they need someone to hear the truth without recoiling. And when you become that space for her, you're no longer just a man she's involved with. You become the only place where she doesn't have to perform, where she doesn't have to filter, where she can be complete. And once that happens, every other interaction in her life starts to feel incomplete, because everyone else gets the version she edits. You get the raw footage, and that creates a bond that's hard to break. Not because it's romantic, but because it's real. And real is rare. Now here's the part most men won't like, because it puts the responsibility back on you. Stop for a second. Think about your last situation, the one that fell apart, the one where you still don't fully understand what went wrong. Don't blame her. Don't default to modern women. Look at yourself. Honestly, did you create tension or just comfort? Did you lead or wait to be validated? Did you hold your ground or slowly adapt to keep her? Did you see her fully or just the version that was easy to deal with? Because if you're honest, you already know the answer. You played it safe. You stayed in your comfort zone. You thought being yourself was enough. It's not. Being yourself without awareness, without control, without depth, is average. And average doesn't create desire. It gets tolerated, replaced, forgotten. You don't need to become someone fake, but you do need to become intentional, refined, dangerous in the right ways. Because what you're building here isn't a personality, it's an experience. Now look at the full picture. The man who triggers obsession isn't random. He's constructed, piece by piece. He has the edge, the controlled threat. He sees through her, the psychological depth. He stands firm, the resistance. He desires without hesitation, the focus. He holds chaos, the containment. He creates the space, the isolation. And finally, he sees her darkness and doesn't turn away. That's the difference. Most men meet women. A few men change how they feel. And once you understand this, you stop chasing attraction and start becoming the reason it happens. Why does this work? And more importantly, why is this not manipulation? Because you're not creating something artificial. You're activating something that's already there, starving. Let's be honest about the world we're living in. She doesn't need you. Not in the way men were needed before. She can make her own money. She can build her own life. She can survive perfectly fine without you. And that's where most men get confused. They think, if she doesn't need me, then what's my role? So they double down on what they think adds value. More support, more logic, more stability. They try to become useful. And that's exactly why they become replaceable. Because you're offering her what she already has, what she already is. And no one craves what they can generate on their own. Let that sink in. She doesn't crave another provider. She doesn't crave another voice of reason. She doesn't crave another version of herself. She craves polarity. She craves what she cannot access alone. She cannot be the object of her own desire. She cannot step outside herself and feel that tension. She cannot hold her own chaos from the outside. She cannot create that push, that pull, that resistance internally. That's where you come in. Not as a provider, not as a fixer, but as a force. And when you meet these 7 needs, you're not taking anything from her. You're giving her something she rarely experiences. Permission to stop performing. Permission to stop thinking. Permission to stop controlling every outcome. Think about that for a second. When was the last time you saw a woman truly let go? Not socially, not on the surface, I'm talking about fully dropping the mask. Most men never see it. They get the curated version, the controlled version, the version that's always slightly holding back. But when you do this right, when you create that environment, when you hold that frame, she doesn't have to lead anymore. She doesn't have to calculate. She doesn't have to protect herself from uncertainty for a moment, an hour, or longer. She can surrender the weight of being on all the time. And that's not oppression. That's relief. That's freedom. And here's the part no one says out loud. When a woman feels that with you, she doesn't just like you. She attaches to the experience, because you become the only place where she can access that state. And in return, she gives you a version of herself most men never touch. Her softness, her loyalty, her intensity, her raw, unfiltered desire. Not because you asked for it, but because you created the conditions for it. But don't get comfortable, because there's a cost. There's always a cost for this level of awareness. If you actually apply this, if you actually wake this up in her, you don't get the low-maintenance version anymore. You don't get the passive, easy, predictable dynamic. You get depth. You get intensity. You get a woman who feels more, demands more, expects more. And most men say they want that, until they have it, until she looks at you, not casually, but intensely, until she expects your presence, your direction, your strength, until you realize you can't switch off anymore. You can't go back to being average, because once you create that level of connection, anything less feels like absence. Let me say it clearly. The nice, easy, chill dynamic, that's roommate energy. Low effort, low tension, low reward. But the real thing, the thing you actually want, that's high voltage. And high voltage requires structure, discipline, control. So the real question isn't, can you attract her? It's this: are you strong enough to handle her when you do? Because most men beg for intensity, then collapse under the weight of it. They ask for the storm, then complain when it floods everything. So if you're going to step into this, make sure you're not just chasing the outcome. Make sure you can carry it. Because once you unlock this, there's no going back to ignorance. You either rise to it, or it exposes you. Now listen carefully. In the next video, I'm going to break down the exact psychological triggers that make a woman chase you without you ever chasing her. Not attraction, not interest. I'm talking about that shift when she starts investing, initiating and thinking about you when you're not even there. If you think you understand the game now, wait until you see because everything you just learned today, that's the foundation. What's coming next is how you weaponize it. But for now, don't break the state you're in. There's a video on your screen right now that goes deeper into this psychology. Click it. Watch it while this is still fresh in your mind. Because the men who understand this once forget it. The ones who immerse themselves in it, they become it. Subscribe if you haven't. Like the video if this exposed something in you. And stay close. Most men will never understand the game, but you do. I'll see you among the few.